Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where I can't lie, I've been a little bit addicted to the 1v1 scene recently. It sort of started with one replay, and then some more, and then some more, and I started getting 2v2s and 3v3s, and I feel like I go through these phases where I like to see a little bit of a switch up from the 8v8 gameplay, take a look at what the competitive 1v1 and 2v2, 3v3, sort of the smaller team games look like. But today, suffice it to say, we've got some pros on the line here. Going to be battling it out on Onyx Cauldron, a very popular 1v1 map. And spawning here is our Blue Cortex commander. It's going to be none other than Zeeberg. Of the DME clan, Zeeberg clocking in at 41.45 open skill and going to be representing, well, the blue team. A holdout from the 8v8 games, but yeah, the representing and also fully comprising the blue team here with those beautiful Cortex spotlights illuminating the path beyond, the golden path beyond here for the blue commander. Yeah, very, very talented 1v1 dual commander. At 41 open skill, definitely well into the pro leagues. Spawning, however, on the other side of the map, if we zoom out and take a look briefly across Onyx Cauldron, we have an Armada commander spawning right here on the top left-hand side of this beautiful map. It's gonna be none other than Angry Strawberry herself, going into some good old-fashioned Armada bot tech and going to be going for, first of all, a Lazarus. That's kind of interesting. Okay, I don't mind the Lazarus out early. That's obviously a little bit greedier than going for something like, well, a couple of pawns or ticks or whatever on the field, but it also helps you immensely, right? Because getting that energy economy up and running is super valuable, but Onyx Cauldron has phenomenal wind speed, so it's definitely, like, Armada already has wonderful wind speed. Going for the Lazarus to help with the energy production is almost like doubling down into the same eco side of things, right? You're going double energy production rather than going into mechs expansion, which is more like what we're seeing here for Zeeberg. Of course, those core units tend to be a little bit more metal heavy, so it makes sense that core would try and go for those mexes, but all said and done, I think I like this start a little bit more here for Zeeberg. Just going into a bit of a more classic start right here, but it does mean that, at least for the time being, Strawberry will have the map open and available. Will these ticks be able to get any damage? And that's kind of what Armada commanders are looking for in the early game. So the balance has really shifted. Armada used to be much more defensive focused with their with pawns being less powerful than they are currently. They were definitely much more of a defensive tool. Nowadays, the script has almost 180 degrees flipped, with Cortex being much more defensive. And you can see these units being kept around, sort of held in reserve right here, defending the initial wave of ticks. No damage is done by the red commander. An excellent, basically a perfect defense right there for Zeeberg. A little bit of superficial scarring on some of the grunts right here, but other than that, basically no damage, which is great. Now it's time for next steps, and that, well, early game aggression right there, pumping out those units, using the extra energy to pump out a whole bunch of ticks is now going to be, well, it's going to mean that Strawberry's on defense. It means that now these pawns are going to have to be kept at home, and you can see indeed they will be, as a whole bunch of grunts are making their way across the map, trying to move in on this northern side, trying to look for any value they can, running all around in the forest and the trees, up and through the hills and past the crystals we go. All over the place on Onyx Cauldron. So Onyx Cauldron is kind of an interesting one. It's a 1v1 map that I don't showcase very often in my videos, so I'll explain here for just a moment. It features a whole bunch of metal extractors to the north and to the south, the northeast specifically, and the southwest. And then you have this big old fighting lane. Really two fighting lanes in the midsection right here. Not as much metal to fight over, but obviously with the direct path back to the base, they're going to be super, super important. A couple of grunts running past right here, but the LLT will be enough to defend. Meanwhile, we have more and more grunts getting into a scuffle on the southern side. Pawns will be enough to clean all that up. Very, very... Oh, maybe not, actually. Oh, okay. 2 pawns for 2 grunts at this point, or 2 pawns for 3 grunts is, at this point, a pretty good trade, actually, for Cortex. The state of the game as it is right now, that's actually not bad. Microing grunts backwards against the pawns is very, very difficult, so you need that perfect surround, and that's exactly what we see right here. A beautiful surround right there from the blue commander does manage to shut down the rest of those units. Very good indeed. Meanwhile, Hero Grunt on the other side of the map has managed to sneak into the base. Typically, if you want to kill a con, the thing to do is right-click a whole bunch of times around the constructor to make it run in a circle. You'll see, yeah, Zeeberg's... Oh, okay, gonna micro the unit away here. I mean, that makes sense, too. But, yeah, that is... Big eco hit, TBH, says one of our co-spectators. And I would tend to agree. That is absolutely a huge hit to the eco. It stops a bunch of the expansion. And remember, Strawberry already went for a slightly less greedy expansion pattern here with only a single constructor. Now we have more and more units in the base. Oh my goodness. 4 grunts making it into the base, and those wind turbines are falling. Luckily, wind speed is up to 28. Actually, wind turbines cap out at 25. It's not safe to run them past 28. They will actually explode in on themselves, so you have to be really careful about that. So most commanders keep them running at 25. Con turret will actually eat up the last of those, and we will eventually rebuild those mexes, but my goodness. 4 mexes down and a constructor has fallen as well. Yeah, these cons are going to have to start getting to work. Rebuilding the energy economy, the metal extractors, all that good stuff. Resbot here, interestingly going to reclaim rather than resurrect. We have seen a lot of commanders preferring to resurrect a bunch of these units, but then again, I would say Armada has the better units, so maybe eating that metal and turning it into pawns would be better. Oh, would have liked to see a res on that mex, though. No reason for that to have gone down here. We will resurrect at the very least the constructor over here, helping to get that expansion, well, that expansion path anyways, up and running a little bit quicker. And I like this E-scaling as well. We're going for build turrets within range of the laboratory is important, but also out of range to give more build surface area, so that we can build more and more wind turbines. But for the time being, I mean, look at the aggression out on the map. Zeeberg doing a wonderful job of contesting multiple different angles all at the same time. Similar expansion pattern here, by the way. Wind turbines are so efficient on this map that it doesn't really matter Armada versus Core. Armada's just going to need slightly fewer of them. It's why that hit to the energy economy wasn't as critical, but it's still a 55% advantage right now for the Blue Commander in the energy department and a nearly 100% advantage in the metal department. Centurion is out for the base defense, and I quite like that. Essentially a mobile LLT, and well, at least in the early games against a bunch of these grunts, that will be absolutely more than sufficient. 100% going to be able to defend against the base if it's in position. One of the grunts does snipe another metal extractor, but again, not the end of the world. Ooh, but that hurts. Again, the resbot goes down over here. Twice we've seen a big snipe on the southern side of the expansion. Strawberry now essentially only expanding with the commander. Going to start setting up some LLTs to prevent any run-bys up on this little slightly higher ground. Pulling a Obi-Wan Kenobi here, trying to maintain the high ground position. Strawberry definitely needs to start converting some of that energy. Yeah, we're looking at 400 energy per second, but we're only spending about 3/4 of that. Converting some of that into metal would probably be a wise move here. Centurion walking into the LLT. Does the Centurion win this? It looks like it sure will. Boom goes the LLT. The Centurion walks away. Well, waddles forward with the victory there, and will continue to be able to put on a little bit of pressure. Zeeberg going to be holding on right here. Yeah, with some resurrected units. There we go. We do have one of those resurrected pawns now coming back to life and helping the Blue Commander while we expand with the Constructor on the southern side, with the Constructors on the northern side. And then there's definitely some spots right here where I think Zeeberg could afford to be a little bit less greedy. So I say less greedy in the sense that core commanders can always, of course, go for those armed metal extractors. If we look here, the exploiter, but of course you also pay 240 metal a pop for every one of those exploiters that you do put on the field. But when it's in a really key strategic location, like right here with this geothermal, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to go for those. We do have Strawberry moving in, though. Will we see a reclaim, or a capture command? I sure hope so. I can almost see it now as the blue constructors move forward, the commander moves in. Do we get a little cloaky, a little capture command? I would love to see it. So this is an interesting playstyle Strawberry is going for here. I can understand why we're so overproducing energy at this point. We're planning obviously to go into a bunch of res spam. Oh, I see the play here. Okay, so Strawberry is hoping to spam out a bunch of res bots, use the res bots as the healers essentially to get this army up and running, to keep the meatballs alive, and then waddle these meatballs forward against all of the pawns. There's pretty much only one tech path here for the core commander. You either go into pawns or you go into grunts. Or pardon me, you either go into incisors or you go into grunts. Or you go into air. We do have a bomber queued up right here. I like this play from Zeeberg, reading Strawberry fairly well here, knowing that that Armada commander is going to obviously be going into wind turbines. I mean, any commander is going to be going into wind turbines, but now with enough of an advantage to actually get into the air and start playing, using that metal advantage that has been maintained for most of this game, to get an extra lab out and start producing those very dangerous air units. And obviously on this map, they're also extremely dangerous because if I just take a big zoom out right here, you can see you can essentially fly this bomber. Oh, I can't draw right now. Hold on. You can essentially fly this bomber all the way along the corner of the map and pop it out in the enemy backline and do tons and tons of damage. It really is extremely dangerous to deal with. Well, Centurion's going down. All right, already a little bit sloppy right here on the front lines. I don't think this army was quite ready to fight at this size yet. We do have resbots up, so every unit that goes down here can be resurrected. Those rocket bots are very, very nice, though. At the very least, going to help crack open the defenses here, the LLTs. We have some tidal generators that have been set up as well. Tidal generator is actually less efficient than metal generators, by the way. No constructors over here. I'm going to go ahead and guess that a D gun was fired off at one point or another. while the constructor on the southern side continues to build this area up. I mean, okay, if we get the geothermal up and running, there's an extra 300 energy per second, but I don't know if a geothermal is even as efficient as wind turbines. It really may not be. Geothermals are stupid efficient, basically throughout every tier of the, or every step of the game, every tech level in the game. At 25 wind speed, though, you're over the threshold for being more efficient than advanced fusion reactors. You're well into potentially the threshold where you're even more efficient than geothermals, which is impressive to say the least here for a lot of these commanders that are going to be going for those energy economies. And you can see some E-converters have been set up. Not even enough, though, actually. 5 energy or 5 metal per second, and we could actually go for about double that now. Maybe not quite double. Yeah, I could probably go for about 8 or so metal per second generation. Rocket bots firing away at the tidal generators. I don't mind that, of course. So it's always nice to shut down a little bit of that energy production, but it's far and away from the end of, well, the end-all be-all here of the Blue Commander. Okay. Game is slowing down because the units are scaling upwards. We've got thugs marching to the front lines slowly but very surely for our blue hero Zeeberg. We have Strawberry going into a couple of Centurions, but also a big old handful of ticks. She's got her ticks in her hand, but I wonder what is going to be the play with these. Could always, of course, go for a commander snipe, unless the commander gets in the water. That is kind of the fatal flaw of the tick. They are absolutely not submersible. If you try and put them in the water, they will drown. You have to keep them out of the water at all costs. There's an obvious and easy escape path here for Zeeberg. I actually really like this jellyfish, by the way. That's so cheeky, but putting that jellyfish right there, not necessarily hiding it, but putting the jellyfish there is really, really nice because, well, of course, if a commander comes walking along on the bottom of the shoreline here, at least you'll have a little bit of reaction time. Because, yeah, Strawberry is holding into this match by pushing on this side. Meanwhile, a gigantic run-by on the southern side. There was some light laser tower defenses set up over here, mostly around this little double mech spot with the geothermal. Instead of going for the geo, though, instead we went and expanded out of the map, which I think is the right play. It does mean these defenses are a little bit weaker, though. Focusing more on the expansion than the defenses. Metal extractor goes down. Bombers on the way, and man, we're not even being sneaky with them at all. Alright, Air Lab is up and running. Do we have fighters queued up right here? We have anti-airs queued as well. We have some of those, yeah, good old-fashioned T1 ground anti-air, and they're going to be put close together because that's just, well, where the constructor is. Yeah, some anti-air on the front line was set up. Bombs away. Alright. Let's see how well these can do. Okay, most of the anti-air survives, but the E-converters do not. One bomber down at the very least. Fighter is in the air, going to start firing away as well. Yeah, okay, we've got enough anti-air to clear this out. Oh, that is so much damage, though. My goodness, just about nearly every single wind turbine falls right there for the Red Commander. Strawberry needs to start producing some energy. You know what, that being said, even with all those wind turbines down, the wind speed is still so efficient that it honestly doesn't even matter. Yeah, it feels like that didn't even really do very much to the economy at all. The only really hit here is that the E-converters aren't going to be churning away metal, but you can see not really a giant E-converter energy solution here for the Blue Commander either, so all said and done, beautiful bombing run. Gigantic advantage in the energy sector here for the Blue Commander. But it feels like not as much of that is being converted into metal as really it could be. Here's that tick wave coming across, by the way. I mean, the grunt is basically the ideal solution to the tick, and we've got about 100 of them. Yeah. That ball of ticks did not find, I don't think, the value that it was hoping to. Will we be investing in beamer turrets anytime this game? Beamer turrets can be a one-stop shop, all said and done solution to the menace that is the grunt. They do a ton of damage. Hey, there we go. Yeah, in key positions, we're putting down some of those beamer turrets. They do a ton of damage against those lighter units. They really can be just impossible to deal with in some respects. Here's the main core of this army, though. Resbots helping out with some of the Centurion and rocket bots, of course. Big old E-converter stack goes down here. Ooh, need to be careful. We cannot lose the resbots. If the resbots go down, then this whole composition fizzles. For the time being, though, it's a pretty good push. And this is kind of an exposed lane. We do have medium tanks rolling out at this point. Centurions are actually kind of good against medium tanks, though, is the issue. Centurions are just kind of good, period, actually. Centurions do tons of damage. They have a relatively high fire rate, and with a decent enough surround, you can see they can even hold their own against medium tanks. They really can. They're just a very well-rounded unit, even dealing with Shuriken in small enough numbers. Wow. Okay. Resbots resurrecting all this on the back. Zeeberg is actually out of options. Yeah, needs to pull units back to deal with the defense. Otherwise, start up some static defense. The shurikens being sent out one by one aren't going to do it. Look at the lasers cutting down the shuriken. I had no idea that Centurion were so good at dealing with shuriken. A little secret superpower of those meatball boys that are waddling their way across the map. The medium tank firing away here. Ooh, gonna micro these back or micro them forward. One or the other, but not either. Not neither. That's a very low commander right there. I'd be very careful if I were Zeeberg. Yeah, Deegans are good. Deegans skipping across the water right there will connect with most of the Centurion. And I think with that, this push has been mostly well held. Big old counterattack now. Grunt's headed towards the base. We do have a bunch of bombers come up right now for the red commander. She is now going to be building some of those good old-fashioned air harassment units while a bunch of grunts move into the base. Are we going to go for gunships or LLTs? Looks like LLTs will be the answer here. Did not refocus those build turrets on the LLTs, though, so now the E-converters are in peril. They weren't doing very much because, again, there's not as much energy production after that beautiful bombing run. This is still an issue over here, though. Yeah. Yeah, these resbots have sort of had a, well, they've had a resurrective effect on a whole bunch of these units, and now they've gotten up, switched sides, and are going to head back towards the other side here. A coastal torpedo launcher has been set up. Lovely stuff. Base defense. I mean, despite the E-converter going down, the LLTs are holding on long enough anyways. Yeah. Okay. Not enough of a push here to actually kill the critical infrastructure, so Strawberry will live to beyond all reason another day. I gotta work on that one. Anyways. Anyways, Shuriken are out, and we don't really have any anti-air. I mean, like I said before, the Centurion are nice, but as soon as you get above the Centurion count with your Shuriken, then you can start to kind of overwhelm them. All said and done, a very decent fight right here for the blue commander. A very efficient one at the very least. I don't like losing these Centurion or these Shuriken here. We do have fighters available as well. Nice to see. Fighters intercepting the Shuriken and now jumping on top of the base. A transport actually will be killed. That's very annoying. Yeah, it's super annoying. Zeeberg was really hoping to use that transport to maybe move over here or move somewhere out on the map to try and build a little bit extra, but we'll lose the transport to a couple of rogue fighters flying across. Super, super annoying. One of those things that I would recommend any 8v8 player to do is learn the timings of when the opposing team is going to start sending out transports to the T2 players. If you can snipe those transports with T2 constructors in them, you will win the game. You are the hero of the match henceforth, and even if they complain, air, are you paying attention, air, are you looking at me, you will at least be able to point at that. Anywho, a couple of sneaky bombers in the back line, and just like that, the blue wind turbines are now the subject of assault. And they are going down pretty quickly. The Armada Stormbringers actually have a really huge talent in the fact that they are very, very good in a wide area. So where the Cortex Whirlwinds are very good at single target damage, the Stormbringer is kind of the opposite of that. It does a bunch of damage in a big, wide open area. That changed slightly in the last patch, but overall is still relatively how these play out. All said and done, a decent bit of damage. So much E-storage available here, though, that I don't think the blue commander is going to really feel the damage there for quite some time, and might have enough time to rebuild, recuperate. None of these resurrected grunts have anything to say about it, though. Oh, this army actually pushing right into the middle of the main base. What a fabulous push right there from Strawberry. Actually manages to get a little bit more value out of these units. Not the end of the world for the blue commander, but it does help. It really does. Shutting down some of that E-converter, that energy production into energy conversion. And now catching a bunch of resbots in the middle of the map is also quite nice. Centurion trying to push forward wherever they can. That's a lot of LLTs out here, but aside from that, not bad whatsoever. Riot tanks headed around. Not going to be able to deal with those with any of those lighter units. You are going to need something a little sturdier. Some idle constructors. And now it looks like Strawberry might actually be starting to overflow metal. It was very close at the very least. Is dumping the metal into different stuff now. We have some metal storages, and we even have some E-stores coming up here. I think these E-stores are a great idea. The metal storages are a little bit suspect. Not the end of the world either way, though. I mean, having those storages is better than losing the metal, right? Even if you don't overflow and you build the storage to prevent overflowing, still going to be more efficient here. Riot tank. Ooh. Yikes. Riot tank will find a juicy midday snack of 2 Lazarus. Lazarus. Excuse me. Ahem. Lazarus. Resbots going to be caught right here by the pesky rioting, just kind of roaming around the map. Very annoying for Strawberry to deal with, right? How many units do you spare to kill a Lazarus, because, or a Pounder, pardon me? I think like 5 pawns can do it, but you have to micro them so well. So do you send 10 pawns so you don't have to micro them as well? It's tricky. It's a tricky thing to weigh. I would love to see these Rocketeers out and being a little bit more aggressive, right? Just sparing 2 or 3 of them to push into these bases, followed around by a tick or 2, just to make sure they have the vision, and of course they can start firing away at these LLTs, start whittling those down. I think it'd be quite nice. Medium tank tears down these 2 metal per second metal spots as well, and we do have some air cons going out of the map. Okay. Interesting transition here for Strawberry. There are fighters available for the Blue Commander, so these constructors are particularly vulnerable, I would say, to harassment. Some nice micro moves. Going to be stepping those units around right here. The Centurion should be double-clicked and then sent forward while the Rocketeers fire from behind. Ultimately, trying to fire one LLT down at a time is also going to be preferable. Shuriken, yeah, taking some damage. There come the fighters, though. Those will be the real solution. I'm surprised that we aren't including at least a single anti-air bot into this comp at this point. Shuriken have been on the prowl here since, well, the early part of this game, so I'm pretty surprised that we haven't seen any kind of ground-based anti-air, but I suppose the fighters have got it at least this time. Thugs and Rocketeers and Centurions coming up right here, as well as a gigantic ball of Resbots repairing everything. Okay, Strawberry back to the same old, but there's a huge force pushing on this side as well. We have radar, so this just got detected. Actually, it would have been seen quite a while ago. Strawberry must have a plan. The plan is beamer turrets. Well, let's see how good they can be. Shaving off a fair percentage per second on those medium tanks, but medium tanks are just so tanky, as you might predict. Centurion's going to be spammed out of the lab at this point. Here's the thing, though. This is a vehicle push going up against a bot lab player, and so the end-all be-all will be that tank corpses are left on that side of the map. If they're resurrected and reclaimed, or even just reclaimed, this still can end up being a huge donation to the Strawberry forces. Yeah, we're getting wind turbines and the cons going down is quite nice here. The blue advantage is tremendous, by the way. I mean, this is definitely worth mentioning. The blue metal production is now 73% and has been climbing for a good time now. I think that the E-converter is being, well, set up here and then not being destroyed. I think one group was destroyed in the push and one group was destroyed in the bombing, and both of which have been rebuilt at this point. But here we go. I mean, yeah, every one of these units that went down right here can be resurrected. They will be resurrected. Was this ultimately a push that achieved all too much? The mexes are down, and so that shuts down the metal production, but the army value is just going to start to scale up here, not only by production, but also by resurrection. Actually, interesting, Strawberry isn't producing units. We have fighters on the queue, because you sort of have to always have fighters on the queue once you go into air, but nothing else is under production here, so this is just straight up resurrection. There we go, we have some extra defensive pawns queued up right now, but yeah, Strawberry is just saying, alright, if I need to get back into this game from that early bombing run, all I can do is just resurrect everything and use the opponent's army to defend while being super turbo greedy. I love it. That is essentially how bots are meant to be played, too. This is a great trade as well. Again, any of these units that go down, any that are injured or walk away from this with any amount of HP left, are going to get repaired back up eventually. There we go. Yep, those tanks are coming back to life, but now wearing red colors. Oh, I love to see it. Yeah, Strawberry is holding on here with the Resbots. Are we going to go for some kind of Hail Mary? Oh, it's T2. Okay. Okay, very interesting. We are going to eat up the T1 laboratory here, and maybe we'll even eat up the air lab, because we do need to. There's not enough metal on the map right here, but my goodness. Oh, Zeeberg. Oh, Zeeberg, no. Okay. The classic mistake right here of moving your commander out of your base after the 5-minute mark. Zeeberg is now jumped upon by a whole bunch of pawns, medium tanks, grunts, and boom goes the blue commander. My goodness. Strawberry on the back foot for the better half of this game with an eco disadvantage of upwards of 73% for about the entire match. Manages to snipe the commander that wandered carelessly too far forward. If ever there was a lesson to get taken away from this, it's to hide your commander in your base for the love of Bar. Thanks a ton for watching, everybody, and if you did enjoy this 24-minute long 1v1, please feel free to like and subscribe, and join the Brightworks community by clicking the link that'll take you to the Discord down below in the description section. There's also a whole bunch of other cool links, like the one that will take you to the challenge site where you can sign up for the May Fight Night events, which will all feature Legion as well, if you'd like to take a look at the third experimental faction. And other than that, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.